everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming to our session about go-to-market in today's political climate. My name is Alla Seifert.
And I'm Brianna Tucci, and we're so excited to be here with you.
This is our first time doing a session where you can't ask questions. So we are for sure going to stay after, and if we say something extremely riveting that you cannot wait to discuss further, we'll be standing here on the side. But hopefully during the course of this hour, you'll hear some major themes that we're seeing politically, as well as some tactical ways that AWS Marketplace can help with go-to-market.
Awesome. Well, I'm Brianna Tucci, and I lead the AWS Marketplace for the US intelligence community. And I've been at AWS for 5.5 years now. So excited to be here at my third reInvent. And my fun fact, if you want to flip over to that slide, is that I was actually raised in Cairo, Egypt.
That's a really awesome fun fact. My name is Alla Seifert. I am on the public policy team at AWS. And while I've been here for 5.5 years as well, this is my very first reInvent because traditionally this is not a space where we talk about policy. But boy, oh boy, has this new presidential administration changed things up. And when it comes to sort of business equities and all of the things happening in Washington and making sense of it for the partner network, we thought that this was a wonderful opportunity to sort of talk to the partner community about what all is going on in Washington. And so before we begin, let's do a show of hands. How many of you are in the AWS Partner Network or in some way affiliated with public sector? Amazing. How many of you are in government or are public sector? Awesome. Oh, okay, all right.
And of government folks, but mostly partners here, and that sticks with what the themes we're going to be talking about primarily to our partner audience.
Yeah, and for government folks, by way of background, I'm a former procurement official, so I am very happy afterwards to dive deep and get nerdy on all things government contracting, which is effectively what we're discussing today.
Awesome.
So with that, a little bit about the next hour. We're going to talk about the main net new themes and evolutions in how government is buying. At the federal level in particular, we're seeing some pretty explicit new market segments. Speaking from the AWS side of the house, those segments are the signals we're seeing from the new administration about how government is planning on spending taxpayer money presents some pretty amazing opportunities and also some challenges around what does this mean and what does being flexible in this environment mean.
After that, we're going to kick things off with discussing what the current challenges that you as our partners face when you're trying to deliver to the public sector, and then how AWS Marketplace can be positioned as a solution for you. We'll talk about the impact and growth of AWS Marketplace in the public sector, as well as AI agents and how you can leverage AI agents from AWS Marketplace to deliver your own solutions, to enhance your organization's performance and results, and can be also leveraged by your public sector customers. We'll wrap things up with ICMP, the AWS Marketplace for the US intelligence community, and of course, a few calls to action. So with that, Alla, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. All right. Like I said, this is my very first reInvent because traditionally the world of public sector contracting was, let's just say, it was not static, but it perhaps evolved incrementally, so much so that many of you have, in the course of your career selling to governments, have seen things move slowly and have seen adjustments incrementally. And that has not been the case in 2025. As a function of the new administration, we have had, there we go, I think today marks 316 days since President Trump took office for his second term. And there have been enormous changes in thinking about the role of the federal government as a buyer. Now, the last administration, the Biden administration, very much thought about this too, but they were really approaching it incrementally. They were thinking about, oh, how can we think about climate disclosure in the context of government procurement? Should we think about scope 1 and 2 emissions for federal contractors? But they were thinking about it in longer term, more regulatory timelines. This administration is not afraid to move fast and to be pretty explicit about their ultimate objectives. So tactically, what does that mean? Government efficiency. Maybe we'll do raised hands. Raise your hands if you and your work were in some way tactically affected by DOGE at either the federal or the state level. Yeah, a bunch of hands. The focus on government efficiency is really and tactically changing the way the government buys in order to achieve efficiency is really, in my mind, characterized by the changing role of the executive branch as a decision-making entity. So it used to be that folks such as myself who work in policy would go to Congress, and maybe if we would like to increase a program's budget, we would make sure that a particular technical program received a budget plus up in one calendar year, or one new fiscal year, and then that budget would go up, or Congress would deem that the budget should go up, and then it was incumbent upon the executive branch to go ahead and spend that money. We are in a world where the executive branch is now unilaterally deciding to spend less money. And to spend less money than was appropriated by Congress in some circumstances, or perhaps reallocate some of the money to focus on different issues. This may not feel radical, but is pretty different when it comes to sort of separation of powers, but also broadly how Congress thinks about political priorities. Next, an explicit focus on AI leadership. And I think this is amazing. I think it's really great for everyone in this room. Those of you that listened to the Matt Garman keynote earlier today heard about all of the amazing agentic and otherwise things that this company is doing on AI, and that you all in the partner network are delivering on AI. But there is an explicit focus on accelerating government's use of AI to unleash innovation and win the global AI race. In the last administration, we saw a focus that was really incremental, focused on governance, focused on really making sure that 19 different attorneys were on the same page before procurement went through. This administration is focusing on moving fast, and I think that is notable, but also rather different. Next is, and I think this is extremely important as especially we head into 2026, and that is regulatory reform. There is a process underway called the Revolutionary FAR Overhaul, RFO, wherein the federal government is rewriting and really shrinking the total number of procurement regulations on the books. And then many compliance programs are also changing that apply to technology. We're seeing FedRAMP move super fast. We are seeing DoD roll out and implement the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, CMMC. I'm seeing some nods here in the crowd. And all of this, it creates a, let's just say, more dynamic environment when it comes to government contracting than we've had in a long, long time. So what does that mean for you? What does this mean for those of you that are partners here in the audience? Number one, you are seeing new leadership that is putting a premium on ushering better tech into government. And many folks in CIO roles over the course of the last decade in government, regardless of administration, have come from the private sector. They're generally aware of what's going on. But historically, and many of you that sell to government know that, again, change has been extremely incremental in the past. There are a lot of folks that may not be cloud native. There are folks that may be really comfortable running their data center contract and may not wish to move or may not wish to modernize. At the end of the day, the mandate to modernize is explicitly clear. It is driven by both DOGE concerns, but also by political leadership. In the cases of pretty significant turnover, both as a function of folks in government taking early retirement or taking advantage of sort of the deferred resignation programs that were offered at the federal level, or just because folks are deciding to leave public service, there is new leadership in place. And this does create wonderful opportunities to earn trust with a new set of stakeholders that are, from a top-down perspective, getting a lot of signals to move faster. Relatedly, the other huge signal that those folks are getting in addition to modernization is to go ahead and implement AI. The desire to have use cases move from POC into production and have something to show leadership and to show the highest levels of the administration about how the government is using AI is very real. Earlier this year, this summer, the White House released the AI Action Plan. This was an executive order where a number of agencies were tasked with a variety of functions, including moving faster for implementing AI for mission use in the national security sector, really thinking about defense uses for artificial intelligence, and in compliance. It called out FedRAMP to move faster for doing compliance and getting approvals for new models and new AI solutions. And so the focus on AI leadership is, I think, going to very much continue into this coming year, and between the new leadership and the top-down priority for AI, I think that's going to be a really wonderful opportunity for partners. The other thing that is happening is a lot of changes when it comes to the mechanisms of procurement. Something that it used to happen really consistently is a federal agency, if they needed to buy a thing, would go ahead and create an agency-wide vehicle for the thing. Maybe they would create a BPA, blanket purchase agreement, off of a GSA schedule. And the idea is, if we're going to do the thing, let's go ahead and set up a blanket contract for it. The pressure to no longer create agency-specific contracts is very real, and I think you should expect it to continue. From a go-to-market perspective, tactically, that may mean relying more on existing GWACs or other agency procurement mechanisms that are in place. But the desire to create net new vehicles, I would say politically, is going to continue to decrease. In terms of the major procurement policy reforms, I am hearing that in addition to the revolutionary FAR overhaul, that individual agencies are going to go ahead and implement their own what are known as class deviations. It's a technical term for when an agency goes ahead and implements a regulation ahead of doing formal notice and comment. For those of you that are small businesses, I think it would behoove you to take a look at the new draft regulations and really make sure that things are rosy. The new regs are really wonderful for looking at commercial first and looking at commercial whenever possible, and I think that's going to be really wonderful for those of you in the partner network. And then ongoing FedRAMP reform. FedRAMP launched an effort called 20X over the course of the last about 6 months, where they're really going through and making the process faster, making it easier, and making it more transparent. Unfortunately, and I know a handful of folks here from the Department of Defense, unfortunately, it is in no way going to increase reciprocity between civilian and defense agencies, which is something that I'm working on in my day job. But nevertheless, I think FedRAMP reforms overall have an opportunity to help y'all's go-to-market, roll out more solutions, roll them out faster, and ideally shorten the cycle of getting commercial technology into the hands of government customers. Public sector partners, what does this mean for you all? The market is going to continue to be disrupted as we head into 2026. We just had the longest government shutdown in history. On the one hand, it is now over. On the other hand, many federal agencies are still funded on a continuing resolution that ends on January 30th. And then a handful more might get funded through September 30th, but a lot are not going to be. We are going to be in a full year CR, likely, for the rest of the we're likely going to be in a continuing resolution for the rest of the fiscal year for many of your customer agencies. Regulatory uncertainty, the FAR is going to take a while to move through notice and comment. During that period, some of your customers will implement class deviations, some of them might not. Customer personnel will continue to change. And then you all know, you all are the backbone of fast-moving private sector innovation, but ultimately this is it will be upon the government and incumbent on the government to move faster when it comes to delivering, or when it comes to approving private sector solutions for use. Looking ahead at 2026, here's sort of my policy my policy look ahead. Taking cues from the customer. As I was making this deck for this conference, Secretary of War Hegseth gave the Arsenal of Freedom speech, during which he talked about, of all things, procurement reform. I'm not necessarily sure that procurement reform and changing acquisition regs and policies has been on the tip of other secretaries of defense tongues in prior years, but we are going to we're going to see a continued focus on making the way the government buy better, ideally, and from just like a market signal perspective, this should benefit you all in the partner network, because ultimately these provide opportunities for you to sell your amazing commercial cloud native solutions to the public sector. The forthcoming fiscal year 26 NDAA also has a tremendous volume of procurement content in it, more than we've had in a handful of years, really trying to make things easier for non-traditional defense contractors. And I spoke about this a bit, but in an environment following sort of the Department of Government Efficiency at the federal level, there is a really clear desire that we're hearing from the federal government to go direct and to really focus on direct contracts as opposed to agency-wide unique blanket BPA kind of vehicles where it would be maybe a multi-vendor kind of thing. So there is a strong focus on faster access to innovation. Then prioritizing AI. You've, I think, now seen AI on every slide I've had so far. Enabling American AI innovation through APN solutions is going to be key. We're talking, yes, chatbots, yes, large language models, but also delivering fraud prevention solutions, call center modernizations, productivity solutions. I was recently at an event with some state and local public sector leaders that were talking about how they had spent so long thinking about standalone contracts for things like maybe buying LLM tokens, that they now have to think about, well, what happens when ERP solutions and existing office productivity solutions and existing tooling that folks are using is going to have AI and Gen AI in it, and how it will be incumbent upon the public sector to implement that in order to receive the productivity gains, especially now that in the federal government the workforce is significantly smaller. And partnership is going to be key. We're really excited, and Brianna's about to talk all about how we can collaborate on raising solutions together and delivering digital transformation at scale. So thank you. Brianna, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Ala. Well, I have a little confession to make. You see, I am not a procrastinator. Ala can attest to this. I had this presentation ready to go months ago, but then a couple of weeks ago, something happened and I started over. The Trump administration's revolutionary FAR overhaul took on new momentum with Secretary Hegseth's Arsenal of Freedom speech, and I thought, this is our moment. There has never been a better time to talk about federal procurement and the way that AWS Marketplace can help you, as our partners, to deliver to our public sector customers and to help those federal customers that are here with us today to take action and implement the guidelines and policies given to them from above. Now let me put this transformation into perspective. It is not unique to defense procurement. In fact, President Trump's executive orders from earlier this year, such as restoring common sense to federal procurement and ensuring commercial, cost-effective solutions in federal contracts, represent a reimagining of how all government agencies buy goods and services. And these goods and services are not limited to the traditional types of goods and services. They include cloud services. They include software. They include AI and AI agents. In fact, these reforms aim to strip away decades of red tape, ushering in a new era of federal procurement. And today, I will show you how AWS Marketplace can help you to navigate this new age of commercial-first, streamlined procurement and to deliver on what these reforms demand. Now, we've talked a lot about procurement transformation already today, but there's other types of public sector transformations taking place as well. We stand at the cusp of a technological revolution that promises to transform how governments deliver to their citizens. The global cloud migration services market is set to hit over $80 billion by 2031, growing at an annual rate of 25%. And Gen AI has already taken the world by storm. Public sector organizations are leveraging it to streamline government operations at all levels, improve emergency response systems, and enhance national security. And as a representation of the latest seismic shift that we're seeing is the introduction of AI agents. And I'll talk more about those later on in this presentation. But there's yet another change that's taking place across the public sector today. In this political climate, public sector organizations simply can't afford business as usual. Every dollar and every minute counts. And whether you're talking to federal agencies or federally funded universities, hospitals, and nonprofits, we're all hearing the same things. They're all telling us, we need you to do more with less. And these budget pressures are not just in the United States. In fact, 51% of IT professionals across Europe, Asia, and the Americas all say that they face budget pressures this year. But it's the leading public sector organizations that are turning these new policy changes and these budget pressures not into obstacles, not into barriers or walls, but into catalysts for transformation. Because with the right data and the power of AI, public sector organizations can make measurable impact out of each and every dollar. And you, in your partner organizations, can do the same. So don't view all of this transformation that Ala and I have been talking about and all of these changes as obstacles. View them as an opportunity, as a catalyst to transform your go-to-market strategy in the public sector, to transform your internal operations that your organization utilizes, and to scale your public sector business. So you may be wondering why there's been so much focus and so much talk about changing traditional procurement processes. And the reason is because those traditional procurement processes are slow and cumbersome, ill-suited to the rapid pace of the cloud and innovation. Let's see a show of hands. Since we have so many partners represented in the room today, how many of you were able to successfully deliver your solution to a public sector entity in less than 6 months? I see a couple of hands raised, far too few. How many of you did it take around 12 months to deliver your solution to a public sector entity? And did it take anyone longer than 12 months, say 18 months? It's way too long. Why is that way too long? Because by the time your solution gets into the hands of your public sector customer, A, their requirements may have changed. B, your solution most likely has changed. In fact, I've even worked with partners that no longer deliver the solutions that are finally being adopted and procured by the government by that point, because they've had a change to their own commercial business plan and roadmap. Not to mention version changes and upgrades. But this takes way too long to get into the hands of our mission customers, the innovation and the critical technology that you as our partners deliver. Indeed, as you can see from this screen, there are a myriad of steps and procedures in the traditional procurement process, some of which may be necessary, but all of which encumber the speed at which the cloud was designed to deliver. And our public sector customers know that in order to achieve digital modernization, they need software procurement. But the path to get there is littered with the pitfalls of the legacy software supply chain and growing maintenance and operations costs for legacy systems that are stuck on-prem. So what do we do about this? Enter AWS Marketplace as a game changer. With AWS Marketplace, we streamline the entire procurement process in order to reduce those administrative and bureaucratic layers that prevent mission customers from getting access to critical technology faster. And with AWS Marketplace, we break it up into these 5 key stages of procurement. It starts with the discovery phase. And when it comes to discovery, we have our AWS Marketplace catalog with over 6,000 vendors and over 25,000 public listings for our customers to choose from. And on top of that, we have something called the AWS Marketplace, the AWS Private Marketplace, or PMP. And the PMP can be established by any buying organizations to create a curated list, a curated pre-vetted catalog from our broader AWS Marketplace catalog, so that in that PMP, that organization can procure from only pre-designated and selected and identified vendors and SKUs. We also help to transform the discovery process in AWS Marketplace by introducing things that are being announced this week here at re:Invent related to AI and AI tools to help you find the right solution that you need. Now you can even upload requirements documents into AWS Marketplace to get a suggested list of solutions and SKUs that could meet your mission needs and objectives. Now, once we've achieved the discovery phase and you've identified the right solution that you as our public sector customer need, the next step is to onboard the supplier. And with AWS Marketplace and the Private Marketplace catalog, that onboarding step is usually already complete. Next comes buying and provisioning. So to buy in the public sector off of the AWS Marketplace, our customers leverage pre-existing cloud contract vehicles. That means that they do not need to establish yet another new contract vehicle like Ala was talking about, which we know the government is less inclined to do. They can leverage their pre-existing cloud contract vehicle to buy the solutions available to them on the AWS Marketplace or in their private marketplace. And they're able to provision that software directly into their AWS account seamlessly. So while the first 3 steps of this process that I described are all related to speed, and speed certainly is important, it's not all that matters. Because government entities still need to operate under well-intentioned constraints, parameters, and guardrails in order to adhere to federal acquisitions, regulations, and processes. And therefore, the next phase that AWS Marketplace brings to the equation is governance. We incorporate governance from the start. We incorporate processes to ensure that public sector organizations have approvals from the correct individuals in their chain of commands, including contracting officers, in order to make the purchases that they're interested in. And we also help our public sector entities to optimize spend through billing features and through a host of other features that are available in AWS Marketplace today. And for these reasons, we are seeing public sector customers turn to AWS Marketplace as their preferred procurement path in record numbers. No longer does it take them 6, 12, 18 months to procure the solutions that they need. Now they're able to achieve this in a matter of weeks, and I've even seen it sometimes just days or hours. And our public sector customers are turning to AWS Marketplace not just because of speed. It's not just about the speed of your sales cycles or the speed by which the government can procure. It's about enabling our public sector customers to meet their mission requirements at the speed of the cloud and innovation. It's about delivering to them the tools that they need to better serve the citizens. And today I'm excited to share with you a few statistics about AWS Marketplace as one of our fastest growing channels. First, according to Canalys, over 99% of AWS customers have active marketplace subscriptions. So what does this mean? This means that our customers worldwide are no longer using traditional procurement paths to get the software and solutions that they need to run in their cloud environments. They're using not just AWS, but they're using AWS Marketplace to buy and provision your partner solutions into their cloud environments. And second, last year in 2024, the AWS Marketplace worldwide public sector team reached a significant milestone as we saw over $1 billion in total contract value from our public sector customers flow through AWS Marketplace. Let me pause there. $1 billion, and that was last year. The growth this year has been unprecedented, record yet again. I'm also excited to share with you that AWS Marketplace is now available in 35 cloud regions, including in the AWS Secret and Top Secret regions as a part of our ICMP program, which I'll talk more about later. And today, we now have over 100 partners that are a part of our ICMP catalog. Together with AWS, these partners are delivering critical tech to our customers that need it the most. And this growth that I've been talking about is not just happening in the United States. It's happening worldwide. In fact, last year, our international regions revenue growth outpaced our federal regions revenue growth, a clear signal that international public sector organizations are also adopting procurement transformation. And AWS Marketplace is continuously removing barriers to international business. We now allow sellers from over 40 countries to list in AWS Marketplace, and our sellers can sell private offers in British pounds and in euros, and our customers can buy in their local currencies. So whether you are an emerging player or a global enterprise, you should view AWS Marketplace as your launchpad for international expansion. So save the resources attached to this QR code for later, and remember, to scale your public sector business worldwide, think globally and act locally with AWS Marketplace. And one partner that's done exactly that is Anthropic, which in less than 1 year delivered to over 2,400 unique public sector customers who accumulated over 20,000 unique subscriptions, all billed by AWS Marketplace. And at the federal level, each cabinet-level agency has AI pilots in Amazon Bedrock, all billed by AWS Marketplace. This is the scale of opportunity available to every partner in this room. So how can you best scale with AWS and with AWS Marketplace? I'm now going to give you 2 ideas to achieve that scale. The first is related contract vehicles, which we've already talked a little bit about, but we need to dive deeper on now. And the second is related to AI. So to begin with contract vehicles. What is a contract vehicle? It's the means in which the government can procure goods and services, and we've already established the range of those goods and services that could include. The government isn't going to buy one of your partner solutions without a vehicle to put that purchase on. But like we already established, the government cannot fathom to award an individual contract vehicle to each and every one, for example, of our 6,000 vendors that are available in AWS Marketplace. So to leverage AWS and AWS Marketplace, you can sell your solutions on our pre-existing cloud contract vehicle. That means you no longer have to wait for the government to award you an award. You can sell today on our vehicle. Now, what does this all look like? What does that actually mean or entail? It means that when the government places an order on AWS Marketplace, when they subscribe to your solution or they accept your private offer, that purchase is being put onto the government's AWS bill. So every month when they get their AWS bill, there are line items for all the different cloud services that they've consumed from AWS. Their cloud compute, their storage, and there's a line item there for AWS Marketplace. So the amount that they're charged on their AWS Marketplace line on their bill corresponds to what they've spent on your solutions and all the other partner solutions that they've procured from AWS Marketplace. And they pay off this bill every month just the same way that they pay off all their cloud spend. And then ultimately, that is all accumulated in their invoices that are tracked on their contract vehicle. And AWS pays you, our partners. So you don't have to worry about invoicing with the government and following the finances from the government because it all flows through AWS. Now, the second way that you can scale with leverage is by incorporating AI agents into your internal business operations. You see, we understand from speaking with hundreds of our partners that businesses are creating value with AI agents, and we know that the public sector aspires to do the same. So what do these AI agents offer you as you look to transform your own internal organizations? First is automating processes. Second, improving productivity. And third, reducing costs. So you see recurring themes in our presentation, because what did we say mattered most in public sector transformation today? Procurement change, technology transformation, and budget pressures. Making the most of every dollar. And AI agents can help you and your public sector customers to achieve just that. So I'm excited to share with you today that AI agents and tools are available for you to purchase and deploy from AWS Marketplace. In fact, we have hundreds of AI agents, tools, and solutions available today. And maybe you can add more of your own organization's tools to AWS Marketplace as well, or leverage those that exist already. You see, this slide is here for you both as a seller on AWS Marketplace, but also as a customer of ours, because you can also leverage these tools to enhance your business operations and improve your solutions internally with your organizations. And we have opportunities for streamlined deployments of all of these solutions. And those include SaaS-based deployments, launching the AI solutions from the vendor website. They include AMI-based deployments, spinning up that solution directly into your AWS cloud environment. And they include both container-based and API-based deployments in which you can build anywhere, including on Amazon Bedrock Agent Core. Now comes probably my favorite part of the presentation, the AWS Marketplace for the US Intelligence Community, ICMP. As we see our government customers embarking on these massive cloud migrations, we see it happening more and more at higher and higher classification levels. And this means that now government customers not only need your partner solutions in the commercial AWS region and in AWS GovCloud, they need them at higher and higher impact levels and classification levels. And for that reason, we established the ICMP program. ICMP delivers a version of our commercial AWS Marketplace service to specific government customers in air-gapped regions. And these air-gapped regions deliver a cloud experience to certain government customers at specific classification levels, disconnected from the internet. But we know that our customers experience those same procurement and provisioning challenges in those air-gapped regions, just like they do on the low side. And so we created a mechanism to align ICMP with existing cloud contract vehicles, like I mentioned before, and to seamlessly move your partner solutions packaged into AMIs or containers over to the high side using AWS Diode. Because we heard from our customers about these hard and heavy lifts, trying to sneakernet software, download it, push it over the fence into the high side. And to alleviate that added burden on our customers, we decided to do it for them using AWS Diode. So our partner solutions from ICMP are hosted in our air-gapped cloud environments, ready for our public sector customers with access to those environments to pull them down and deploy them into their cloud regions. So we work with our public sector customers to innovate alongside them and bring them the solutions that they need. This is just slide one of our ICMP catalog, because like I mentioned earlier, we've exceeded 100 partners. We can no longer fit them all on one slide. And before I move on to show you the second slide, I want to pause here and mention a couple of things. First is that over time, we have learned of the benefit of delivering through channel partners. And so you can see on this screen a growing list of our channel partners, because to scale, channel partners, distributors, and value-add resellers still must be leveraged. Additionally, our partners can now deliver their own professional services and SaaS solutions via ICMP, as shown on the right-hand side of this slide. Now here's slide 2 of our catalog. Each of these vendors has been programmatically vetted for foreign ownership, control, and influence. So we work alongside the government to ensure that we're bringing into region the right set of products and tools that they need and that meet their security, controls, and guardrails. So where do we go from here? How do we seize this moment of opportunity and alignment between procurement transformation and the readiness of AWS Marketplace to help you scale your public sector businesses? Well, I've broken it down into 5 different parts. The first is related to adopting AI agents from AWS Marketplace to improve your internal organization's capabilities and to deliver to your public sector customers. And the second is related to leveraging those existing cloud contract vehicles, which I think that we've hammered home at this point. And the last 3, educating your sales teams, co-selling with AWS, and preparing your organization, we're going to spend a little bit more time on now and unpack those some more. Building go-to-market motions for your public sector customers by leveraging AWS Marketplace must incorporate a holistic approach from your organization. It cannot be achieved by a single partner alliance manager or a single sales rep. It has to include and incorporate your product teams, your engineering teams, legal, and even business operations. And so the first part of this go-to-market motion is related to engagement and education, both internally and externally. And the second part is related to co-selling with AWS. So let's say you have a particular opportunity for a particular public sector customer. Where do you begin? You should begin by meeting with the AWS field sales reps for that particular customer, to learn from them and understand how that customer agency buys their cloud spend. What contract vehicle do they use? Do they leverage AWS Marketplace? Who are their contract officers that need to approve the purchase that your customer is trying to make? Coordinating with them is going to be crucial to identifying the steps needed to close your deal. In addition to that education and co-selling with AWS, you also need to educate your customers, because even though we've seen rapid adoption across the public sector of AWS Marketplace, not every public servant has used AWS Marketplace. And so it's very likely that a particular agency that you're trying to deliver to has used AWS Marketplace, but maybe not the individual customer that you're working with. And so that creates an opportunity to educate them, to inform them, and to help them through the process, but you can't do it alone. So we invite you to work with your AWS Marketplace customer advisor that we have on our worldwide public sector marketplace team dedicated to each different public sector territory. With them, you can jointly go to that customer, explain how AWS Marketplace works, and identify the right steps in the process to help them get the solution that they're after. And that's what co-selling with AWS is all about. But like I mentioned, it's not just about the external education, it's not just about the external engagements, and it's not just about co-selling with AWS and the government. It's your own organization as well. And the tips that you see on the screen here that I'll dive into now aren't derived just from AWS. They actually come from our partners that are selling over $1 billion of software sales on AWS Marketplace on an annual basis. They come from our partners that are selling hundreds of millions of dollars via AWS Marketplace each and every month. And they've told us that in order to scale, they have had to align across product, engineering, legal, finance, and sales teams, but also business operations, because they need to build mechanisms with their internal tools to recognize the revenue that they're selling via AWS Marketplace. So this alignment is crucial. And when it comes to aligning with the sales teams at your organizations, you need to think about things like comp neutrality. Ensure that they're comped the same for selling via AWS Marketplace as they would for selling through other channels. So we've already talked about enablement and training and leveraging existing cloud contract vehicles, and this message can't stay just with you. It has to be spread back to your organizations. So the calls to action that I have shared can't all transpire overnight. It will take weeks, if not months, to mature. But there are 3 things that you can do when you leave here today to kick things off in the right direction. The first is to make sure that you're already registered to sell in AWS Marketplace. And if you're not, here's the QR code to help you get started with that. And the second is to connect with your AWS counterparts. Identify 2 to 3 opportunities, 2 to 3 public sector customers that you could envision selling your solution to. Perhaps it's customers that you've already demoed to, they've already demonstrated a keen interest in your solution, and they're really at the point of trying to figure out how exactly to procure from you. Perhaps they're considering GSA schedule, NASA SOUP, perhaps they don't yet know about AWS Marketplace. Your task here today is to identify those opportunities and connect with the AWS counterparts that are related to those public sector customers. And that includes the marketplace customer advisors and the field sales reps for those opportunities. And lastly, when you leave here today, start educating the rest of your companies about AWS Marketplace and how to leverage it to scale your public sector business. You can start with your education campaign to your sales teams by sharing with them the video from this presentation. And to wrap up, I want you to think back to what Secretary Hegseth said about rebuilding our industrial base into an arsenal of freedom. In today's digital age, that arsenal does not just include ships, planes, and tanks. It includes cloud services, software, AI, and AI agents. It includes all of the digital tools that a modern government needs to effectively deliver to its citizens. AWS Marketplace provides liberation from procurement bureaucracy. It transforms acquisitions processes, and it enables decision-making at the speed of mission. This is our moment. The mandate is clear. The opportunities are immediate, and the platform of AWS Marketplace is ready. So let's get to work, and together we will deliver innovation to our public sector customers. Thank you.